Hi friends, how are you all? Hope you are doing well and studying. The last week we have started all the question discussion based on the topic of legal and ethical aspects. So today also we are continuing the same question discussion, and I hope that we'll cover some of the important questions in this session. I don't want to waste your time. So let us start with the select all that apply questions. This is one of the important type of question which usually students might feel some difficulty to choose the correct options. In certain scenarios, there might be 6 options, and all 6 options might be correct answers. And some situations may out of this only one option would be the correct answer, and some other situation out of 6 or 5 options only 2 or 3 options would be the correct answer. So that is called select all that apply questions. So let us start. I will read the question. A clinical instructor is developing an education section for nursing staff in the medical surgical department about the components of informed consent. Select the information that the clinical instructor should include in this particular education session. So the question, the clinical instructor, she is developing a educational session for the staff in the medical surgical department about what? About informed consent. So while she is preparing or while she is making this education session, what are the important components or contents that she should include as points in this education session? So that is the question asked. We'll see the options one by one. First one, the client cannot refuse a test or a procedure or treatment once the test is started. The second option says the names of the person performing the test or procedure or providing treatment should be documented on the informed consent form. Third one, a description of the complications and risk of the test, procedure or surgery, as well as the anticipated pain or discomfort, needs to be explained to the client. The fourth option is the nurse is responsible for obtaining the client's signature on an informed consent form, even if the client has questions related to the test or procedure to be performed. Then the last option says the client needs to be informed of the prognosis if the procedure, if she or he refuses the procedure or treatment. So these are the 5 options. I hope you understand the question clearly, and you understand how to select the options, correct options. See, the first option, they said the client cannot refuse a test, procedure or treatment once the test is started. See, here maybe most of the students, they may feel, or candidate, they may feel this is a correct answer, because in the end of this option they said once the test is started. In this scenario, they didn't consider this test as a surgery. For example, they consider this as a procedure like a chemotherapy medication or some other course of medication. The client, first she decided, okay, I will start with this ongoing treatment, and after 1 or 2 cycle or 1 or 2 session or 1 or 2 days, she find very difficult and she couldn't manage the signs and or the side effects or the symptoms related to this particular treatment. So she decide, I will quit, I don't want to continue. So that in informed consent, in the patient scenario, a patient have the right to quit from that particular test. She can refuse. This is not in a scenario of surgery. You know that it's not possible. But in case of this type of any procedures or ongoing medications or chemotherapy, the client, once she feels that she don't want, really she can quit, she can stop that particular treatment. She can go with some other alternative options. So this option, it's a wrong option. We should not include this statement in the teaching session about informed consent, because here still the client cannot. Actually, the client can refuse. I hope you understand how the topic related to this particular option. Okay, we'll move to the next option. The names of the person performing the test or procedure or providing treatment should be documented on the informed consent form. Of course, The one who is doing this particular procedure, he should mention, because this is also a legal document. This is going to keep in the patient's file, and this is going to the MRD. In future, in any case, if anything, any investigation or anything would happen, this could be a legal document. So everything should be mentioned in that particular form, consent form. Next option, a description of the complications and risk of the test, procedure and treatment, as well as anticipated pain or discomfort, needs to be explained to the client. Yeah, should be. We studied that in the previous informed consent topic discussion area. We studied that the doctor is the one who should inform. There is one content in the informed consent, informed on what all the things she should inform. How the procedure, how long the procedure, and what are the complications that may arise after the post surgery or in the post operative period, and how long the patient should be in the hospital, and is there any chances of infection, and what are the health education. Everything or the doctor should make a description or make an explanation to the client. So that is also a good statement which we can include in the components of informed consent. So now we got two answers. The option second is correct, option third also is correct. Only option one is the wrong statement, so we eliminate that one. We have two more options. The fourth option says the nurse is responsible for obtaining the client's signature on an informed consent form, even if the client has questions regarding the test or procedure to be performed. What do you think? See, the nurse is responsible for obtaining the client's signature. We know that the nurse is not the right one to obtain consent, but the nurse is the one to obtain the client's signature. They didn't say obtain the consent, obtain the client's signature on the form form. Until that area, it's correct. But see, the sentence is going to another way, another dimension. Even if the client has questions or queries regarding to the test or procedure to be performed, what do you think? Definitely, just prior to starting that particular surgery or procedure, if the client, she have any doubt, or she has some kind of tension or anxiety or any queries, we should not take the client to the surgery. First we should clear that one. Then only we will take the signature and we will follow the next steps. So this is a wrong statement. Until the consent form, it's correct. But even if the client has queries or questions, no. What the nurse is supposed to do, she should inform to the doctor who is going to perform the surgery, and should inform the doctor that the client still she have some more questions, some more doubts. She is concerned about some more things. Could you please make it a clear explanation? Then we will go to the signature and further steps. So that's what the nurse is supposed to do in this option scenario. So eliminate that option. Now we have eliminated two options. So we have one more option. We'll see. The client needs to be informed of the prognosis if he or she refuses, if the procedure is not done. Like in certain situations, the client may say that I am not okay to undergo this particular procedure, I don't want. So in that situation, the client needs to be informed of the prognosis, which means, okay, if you didn't undergo this particular procedure, this is one of the best treatment which the doctor would recommend for you, the doctor recommended for you. If you are not okay, if you don't want to go for this particular procedure or surgery, you might have some other complications that might develop. That also should inform to the client. Then only they will think, okay, if these are the things, complication better, okay, I will go with the surgery, or I will see what are the other alternative measures which could be better rather than the surgical option. So that also should include in the teaching session about the components of informed consent. So now how many correct statements we got? 2, 3 and option 5. These are the correct statement that the clinical instructor, she can include in the teaching session. But the option 1 and the option 4 we could not include because these are the wrong statements. I hope you are clear with these options and you are clear with the answer. So option 2, option 3 and option 5 are the correct answers. Okay, already we discussed what all the things should inform, what all the things has to taken as a precautionary measure when we are doing the informed consent, everything clear. So shall we move to one more questions? See the next question. Which of the following task is appropriate for the nurse to delegate an experienced NAP, nursing assistive personnel? Here there is one distracted word, experienced, but you should think, you should be very careful. We have already discussed the rules, the 4 rules of delegation, and what are the things should take care when delegating a task to the NAP or UAP or LVN or LPN. Hope you are remembering those topics areas. So shall we go with the options? The first option says obtain a 24-hour diet record from a client recently admitted with anorexia nervosa. So please concentrate on the keywords. Okay, the second option says obtain a clean catch urine specimen from the client suspected of having a urinary tract infection. Then the option 3, observe the amount and characteristics of the returns from a continuous bladder irrigation for a client after a transurethral resection. So option 4, observe a client newly diagnosed with diabetes mellitus, practice ingestion techniques using an orange. So you are already read the question and you are clear with the question. What does the question ask to us? Which can be delegated to NAP, experienced NAP. I hope some of you already got the correct answer. So we'll see the options one by one. We'll start from down. So the option is says observe a client newly diagnosed with the diabetes mellitus, practice injection techniques using an orange. See, in this scenario there is a keyword. Do you see that one? The client is newly diagnosed, which means this client require a teaching, and that is the first time this teaching or this education is happening. So that task we already studied in the rules or the rules of delegation, that the teaching and health education that we should not delegate to an NAP. Even though she is experienced, only we can delegate unchanging procedures or standard procedures. So this one we can eliminate from these options. So the next one is observe the amount and characteristics of the returns from the continuous bladder irrigation for a client after a transurethral resection. See, you know that the patient, those who are undergoing for transurethral resection, usually they have a bladder irrigation after the surgery. So that one, a nurse required to assess, a nurse is she should assess the characteristics, how the irrigation is coming, and is it bloody, or which, if it's bloody, which means there is a chance of hemorrhage, so we should suspect a hemorrhage. So these all things require a clinical judgment and assessment. So those tasks also we should not delegate to an NAP. So we can delegate, we can eliminate the options 3 and 4. Now we have only 2 options. So out of the 2 options, the second option says that obtain a clean catch urine specimen from a client suspected of having a urinary tract infection. See, in this situation, I think it seems like an option, right? Because we can keep it for consideration. Why? Because this procedure is happening in everyday clinical settings, and there is no indication that the client has have a urinary catheter or something. So this is a normal standard procedure which is unchanging in its way. So we can just keep it for consideration. For after we'll see the first option, we will decide which would be the good option to delegate. See, in this first one they said that obtain a 24-hour diet record from a client recently admitted with anorexia nervosa. See, this anorexia nervosa is a condition in which the client have a frequent binging, and because they feel that they have eaten more food and they don't want to gain weight. This is a condition. This comes under mental health also. So, and this scenario, the client is recently admitted. That is a keyword. Recently admitted, which means that it requires an assessment. Assessment means this task we should not delegate to an UAP or an LVN, because in this option there is a meaning that the nurse, she should take assessment and how much amount of food this the client is taking and how long she have this problem. So there is a kind of assessment, and based on that she should take some judgment and evaluation. So this task also we cannot delegate to an UP. So what is the pending? Only the option 2, that we set the clean catch urine. So that is the only right option or the task which we can delegate to an experienced NAP. Did you clear? I hope you're clear. So the answer option 2 is the answer for this question. We have discussed many questions related to delegation and informed consent. Why? Because these are some of the important topics in our examinations. Even it is in class R and Health, DH, whatever it is one of the important topics. And I want you to thorough with this topic. That's why I am putting more questions from various dimensions. So if you are practicing in such a way, you will came to understand, okay, only this single topic, how all the situations it will come, and what are the options it will related to this particular topic. So how I can pick the right answer. I want to make a clear picture about that one. That's why I am putting more questions related to these topics. Hope you are clear. So shall we move to the next question? See, a client diagnosed with a head injury undergoes preparation for a lumbar puncture. Which action will the nurse take first? See here also the keyword, nurse take first. Okay, already the client have head injury and undergoes preparation for a lumbar puncture, which means that already the consent has taken. So when we are before taking the consent, already the procedure has explained to the patient. So those 2 steps we can eliminate. Have you eliminated? So now we have only 2 options. Measure pre-procedure vital signs, and the 4th option, that is locate a lumbar puncture tray. So out of these 2 options, which one you feel as a good choice, in which the nurse she can take as a first step or a first action? Only we remove the obtained consent and explain procedure. That we already removed. So just before the lumbar puncture, what the nurse supposed to do? She should take the vital signs, pre-procedure vital signs. That is very important. While she are taking the vital signs, if it is variation, is there any variation or any high temperature, something, it's an indication of increased intracranial hemorrhage. So if increased intracranial hemorrhage, does we can do the lumbar puncture? No, we cannot do. It's a contraindication. So that's why the best action or the first action nurse can take in this scenario is measure the pre-procedure vital signs. Keep it in our mind. Why? Because increased intracranial pressure can be cause further problems. So this is contraindication. So we should not continue. We should not do the lumbar puncture procedure. So for that, what we have to do first? What we have to do? First, we have to take the pre-procedure vital signs for ensuring whether the client is stable, whether the client in this time or this time, whether the client can go for the particular lumbar puncture procedure. Is that okay? So we'll move to one more question. The physician ordered tobramycin sulfate 3 mg per kg IV every 8 hours for a 3-year-old baby. Okay, when we will see this medication, you will say, okay, what is medication? You are making confusion. Just keep it. We'll read forward. The nurse enters the client's room to administer the medication and discovers that the boy does not have an identification bracelet. See, nothing related to the tobramycin. Something else. Which of the following should the nurse do? So what is the question asked? The nurse, she want to administer a medication that was prescribed by the doctor, whatever the medication. Before doing the medication or before doing any procedure, we know the IPSG codes, International Patient Safety Codes. Identify the patient with 2 identifiers. It's very important. That is also connected here. So she didn't find the identification bracelet. So what the next thing? What is the appropriate action, or how she should ensure the patient identification? Which of the following should the nurse do? The first option says, ask the parents at the child's bedside to state their child's name. The second option, ask the child to say his first and last name. Then the third one, have a co-worker identify the child before giving the medication. Then fourth one, hold the medication until the identification bracelet has obtained. What do you think? What would be a good best option? This is one of the simple question. What would be a best option in this scenario? Yes, in this scenario, the best option to identify the patient, this child or this client identification is better by whom? Will confirm with based on the conversation or the word of a co-worker? No. Sometimes it might be changed. So leave it that, eliminate that. Then hold the medication until an identified bracelet has obtained. How long? Would it be able to predict? No. So we can eliminate that. Then what is the another one? Ask the child to say his first and last name. That one maybe we feel it's a good, but she's a 3-year-old baby. Sometimes they will tell the last name that the father or mother will call in their family, and their real name, what is in our medical record, it might be different. So we can believe 100%? No. So what is the another best option out of these 4 options? Yes, the first one. Ask the parents at the child bedside, where they are at the child's bedside, to state their child's name. That is one of the good option out of these 4 options. So we will go with that one. Is that clear? Hope you are clear with the topics and the questions that we have discussed. I know we are discussing very slowly because I am discussing each option. Even though we'll find the correct option, we should know why other options are not correct. That is very important. That is the one main strategy to practice critical thinking way of application questions, synthesizing way of questions, or analyzing way of questions. Because in another question scenario, maybe the one answer we select as an incorrect option would be a correct answer in that another scenario or another topic. So if you will practice in this way, if you will practicing every day, I assure that it will definitely improve your ability to tackle this kind of questions. So we practice and be happy. Bye bye.